name's Phil Duprey, and my wife and I moved to Cedar Park in '92 after careers with IBM, and I had the Army before that. And we picked Cedar Park out of all the places in Texas because it's by my research, the most literate place in Texas. And we knew we wanted Texas because we had worked in Texas with IBM at the Space Center in Houston. So we knew Texas was the friendliest state in the country. But we knew we didn't want to go back to Houston because Houston is humid. And after doing research of where are the most libraries per capita and most graduates per capita, it was the Austin area in general and Cedar Park in particular, which in '92 was a relatively undeveloped little city, but it had a nice, for its size, library. And we moved in and bought the first house in Forest Oaks, which is now an old neighborhood. that was awesome, yeah. And that was way before the toll road. I had no idea it was going to be a road because the wall is right on our property line when they finally built it. But we moved before they built it, and we sold it to a couple after telling them there's going to be a road there. They said, "Great, we are highway engineers." Perfect, yeah, they're happy, I'm happy. And we moved to the other side of town and been there forever. Been in the house we're in now because of the Army and IBM, we moved under an average of every 3 years. So we've lived in the house we're in now longer than we've lived anywhere ever. Same house, more than 20 years now. We've never been in one place that long, ever. That's how happy we are in Cedar Park. Cedar Park is preternaturally friendly. I mean, the folks when we moved here, we just felt friendly right off the bat. And the first thing I did when I got here was join the Cedar Park Chamber of Commerce because I knew nobody. And pretty soon, because the chamber in a small town was all the movers and shakers in the city, all the business people and a few others, I pretty soon knew everybody, which didn't last because now with 80-some thousand people, up from 12, you can't know them all. But Cedar Park seemed to be the place to watch it grow. And I became a participant in the growth, not just in the chamber, but I also quickly joined the Library Foundation because I went to the library, and Pauline Lamb, the first librarian Cedar Park ever had, and for a long time, the librarian, she joined us right out of grad school, I guess, and became the librarian. I said, "I got more books than you do," because it was a little library. I'm pretty sure that's true. We have a lot of books, which we've since given a lot of them to the library for book sales, but I said, this library needs help. So I joined the Library Foundation, one of the first members, I guess, of the Library Foundation. And then I ran for city council saying we need to build a better library. One of my goals was to build a better library, among other things I did as a city council person. I found out when I got on city council, I'm gonna make something happen. And I found out that on city council, it takes 3 terms to make anything happen. In the first term, you get folks to agree that you want something to happen. The second term, you get it funded. In the third term, the last 2 years of 6 years, you actually see it get built. So it took 3 2-year terms to do what I wanted to do for the other expanded library, which was going to last the city for maybe 20 years. Well, it didn't. Cedar Park grew a lot faster than that. And after city council and the growth of the city continued, I stayed in the Library Foundation and recognized that the library needed to be bigger yet, and it couldn't grow where it was. So we decided to have a very grand plan, a multi-million-dollar grand plan in cooperation with the city and all the residents, and fundraise and tax to build what is now the best library in Williamson County for sure. And it's beautiful. It's gotten awards, architectural awards for utility. The traffic at this library is more in a month than the old library had in a year. The throughput for materials is way up because it's got a lot more materials. And from the time that I was young and only went to a library for books, I found that the libraries are now libraries without walls. And we got books and videos and online and classes and maker spaces and kiddie things and the outdoor thing for the kids. The library is the heart of the city now. It was a part of the city, now it's the heart of the city. And it's gotten traffic from far and wide because this is the best library around. So everybody around here comes to our library. And we, as the Library Foundation, we help fund some of the extraterritorial jurisdiction kind of folks' fees if they can't afford to get their kids to the library. Well, we can. So we help folks use our library. It's there for everybody who needs a library. Yeah, well, I was growing up, I was born in 1945, which is like forever ago. And we lived in Providence, Rhode Island, And one of my first memories is my mother reading to me. So I was bookish from the time I can remember. And when I got to be a little older, my dad would walk me to the Providence library branch nearest us most every Saturday morning. And until I could get my own library card, we used his library card and checked out books every week and brought it back every week. A little card in the pocket in the front with a date stamp. It was kind of cool because library was books. That's all it was, just library was books. And that was the window to a world that I otherwise would not have seen, because I was an only child going to parochial school at the time. And that was paid for by the diocese because my folks were poorer than I knew. My dad walked me to the library because we couldn't afford to go to the movies. I didn't know how poor we were at the time, and I didn't know they weren't paying for the parochial school I was going to. The parish was paying for me to go to school. It was in high school before I realized how poor we had been, until my folks got better jobs when I was in my teens. And if it wasn't for the library, I'd have been a very locked-in kid. It's an only child, other relatives, hardly any, because they didn't live nearby. So I would have been just a locked-in kid, but the library opened the world to me, and I was checking out books, more and more books, and I'd get them back. I'd read them all in a week and go get more. It was something. It was a better childhood than I would have otherwise had. And I didn't know it at the time how blessed I was to have folks who cared that much about literacy, even though my dad was a 9th grade dropout. Because when he was young in the Depression, at the 9th grade level, 15-ish, his folks said, go to work. We need you to earn money. So he was forced out of school in the 9th grade. And my mother made it through high school, but she, for a long time, was just a seamstress doing piecework back in the days when New England was a fabric capital of the country. And my father worked in a fabric mill where they would dye the fabrics for the fabric industry. And all those mills closed down long since, but they were both working hard, making no money. And that's why we walked to the library and got the books, because school was free, books were free, and until they got a job working at the University of Rhode Island, eventually, through the help of one of my uncles, we were broke. And things changed when they got those jobs. I was a teenager. We moved to the south of Rhode Island, where the school, the university was, and things started getting better after that. And I went through high school there, went to college, met my wife the first day of college, an honors English class, because I was an English major, and she was a engineering and math major. She's much smarter than me. I married up. And first day, I think, honors English class, we went to study all through college. And I could go tuition free because my folks worked for the college. This continuing thread of folks having to pay for me to do things because they couldn't afford to get it done. And I was a commuter because I couldn't afford to stay at the dorm or pay for the meal plan, because the tuition was free, but nothing else. And I had to buy books. So I joined the ROTC because that paid a stipend every month, and that was enough to pay for the books. So I went to college basically for free and got a wife out of it in the process, which was kind of cool. And then she went off to IBM and I went off to Vietnam. And after Vietnam, I said, I've had enough Army. And she recruited me to IBM. I was a programmer for several years. I worked on the very first orbiting telescope. It was NASA and the University College of London launched the Orbiting Astronomical Observatory, the very first one. And it was a big success. Scientifically, it was a big success. And life-wise, it lasted way longer than anticipated. They really built it well. We had a mission control board, which was kind of like Nixies. They were really old display devices, and it had space for, I think, 6 or 7 orbit counts. We'd go to like 99999 orbits, and then you'd run out of numbers. Well, it lasted longer than that. So they wrote 1 and they stuck a 1 in front of the other number so we could continue counting up the orbits. That was a long time ago. And the thing lasted forever. Did a lot of good science. And I learned all about star trackers and the inertial wheels that kept the thing pointed in the right direction, and telescope, and I learned all kinds of good stuff. I'm a good programmer. I worked on the space shuttle as a programmer. And then I got into management and kind of lost my technical chops. I made a lot more money going up into I was a middle manager, and I did really well on IBM. She became senior technical staff. She stayed smart. I became managerial. But it's okay, IBM was good to both of us. And then when we got done with IBM, after having been in Maryland, New Jersey, and Texas, we learned that Texas was the best of all possible places. When we were done with IBM, we came back to Texas. That's when I did the research on where, and it's been Cedar Park ever since. Well, it's probably a book a week. Lots of magazines and newspapers and online stuff, but it's probably a book a week. And it's still a mix of history, current events, and the occasional fiction. Like I just read the Secret of Secrets, the new Robert Langdon book. They did the Da Vinci Code, which is a fantastic book.
Mm-hmm.
And the Secret of Secrets is, I read it in a couple of days. It got good towards the end, but no Da Vinci Code, that's for sure. But I read about a book a week, and I've read thousands of books. And because we were with IBM and IBM paid for the moves, we would buy books and keep them. My wife had several club subscriptions, and I had science fiction book clubs. She had mystery guild book clubs, and we'd buy a bunch of books. And we kept them all, and IBM paid for the moves. So every time we moved, on an average of every 3 years, we moved all the books because it was paid for. So by the time we got to Texas, we had a heap of books, thousands. The house was full of bookcases. And now that we're getting old, we are getting rid of the books, and we've given 25 or 30 boxes of books to the Library Foundation, actually Friends of the Library, now part of the Library Foundation, for the book sales. And they're all in good shape because I learned early on to take really good care of books, because the nuns would force me to do that in parochial school. If you didn't take good care of the books, they would wrap you on the knuckles. So I made sure to teach how to open the book when it's new, so it saved the spine. So all the books were like brand new condition. So I imagine Friends of the Library made a bunch of books on the books. They were technical books and mystery books and science fiction books. And I only have a few hundred more boxes to go. I've got 12 sitting in my garage right now, ready to go for the next book sale. Yeah, some of the books you can't tell whether they were read. The book is always more developed than the movie, but it's not as exciting as a movie. So if John Wick was a novel, the movie would be better than the book. But they develop the characters better, and there's more of them in a book because they have time to do that. And the history books, there's no comparison. The history movies can't hold a candle to the reality of all the backstories that are in the books. The fact is that I consider libraries opportunity multipliers. The early libraries with just books certainly were that for me. And the new libraries are clearly being that for the younger folks now, because there's more things to be multiplied. If they want to be online, we got it. Want to read a book, we got it. Want to borrow some educational games, we got those too. Want to read a different language, we got them. We got all that stuff. The libraries have gotten so much better. They really have become a window on the world in a bigger way even than it was for me. And the opportunity multiplier for folks who could otherwise not afford it, like I couldn't. And the kids may not even know how poor they are, but they're not poor when they're in here. We make it free on purpose. The taxpayers and the Library Foundation make it free for users on purpose, because that is the way to get to the most people the best way. The whole history of the world is available, and I think it's easier to find wandering around a library than it is wandering around the internet, because the algorithms kind of point you in directions they think you want to go. In the library, it's propinquity. You run into something, you go, whoa, I didn't know. And then suddenly you find things you otherwise would never have found. I express the fact that the library is an opportunity multiplier. And if they want to open the world for young people, the best way to do that is through our library, especially this library. And they'll frequently ask, well, what have you done? So I've made a significant financial contribution myself, so I don't feel bad asking you to do the same and give the amount that feels good to you. And there's a way to pay it out over time. If you want to give more than you can give this month, we ask you to do what you can, and we'll let you pay it out over 2-3 years. I was happy to bring like-minded people to think about the library in a way they wouldn't have by asking them to support it for the young people. And mostly I'm talking to folks my age and a little younger. I'm pretty old, but folks with the means to be able to do it, and at the point in their life when they probably getting to want to do something like this. This is close to home, and giving money to support something that's close to home is good, warms your heart. You can see the people using your donation by coming to the library and just looking. Say, wow,